Welcome to Wisdom Words, a quiet space to slow down and think deeply. Here, we explore timeless lessons about life, peace, and purpose, one story at a time. So, take a moment, breathe in, and let's begin. Mental strength isn't about being fearless or perfect. It's about staying steady when the world around you feels uncertain. It's about learning how to think clearly when emotions are loud. Mentally strong people don't escape challenges. They face them with patience, with honesty, and with inner discipline. But how do they do it? Are they born that way, or is it something we can learn? Ancient wisdom, modern psychology, and real-life stories all point to the same answer. Mental strength is built through habits. Not once. Not sometimes. But daily. Quietly. When no one is watching. In this video, we'll explore 3 powerful habits of mentally strong people and how you can start applying them in your own life today. Each one is simple, but deeply transformative. Life will bring pain. That part we cannot change. But our response to pain? That part is ours to decide. Mentally strong people don't ignore emotions. They learn how to manage them. They ask better questions. They stay grounded when storms arrive. The first sign of mental strength is this. The storm no longer decides your direction. There's an old story about a mountain and the wind. Every day, the wind tried to break the mountain. It screamed, pushed, and shook it with full force. But the mountain stayed still. Not because it was stronger, but because it knew its nature. The wind couldn't understand. "Why don't you fight back?" The mountain replied. "I don't need to fight to stand. I just need to stay rooted in who I am. What shakes me the most? People, pressure, or my own thoughts? Do I react quickly or respond wisely? When life becomes loud, do I still know who I am?" Mental strength is not loud. It isn't dramatic. It builds slowly, like muscle. Through small choices. Through daily habits. And through the courage to face uncomfortable truths. In the next chapter, we'll uncover habit 1, a mindset shift that mentally strong people live by, especially in difficult times. Mentally strong people don't always control what happens around them, but they learn to control the voice inside them. That inner dialogue shapes confidence, fear, decisions, and identity. Every day, you talk to yourself more than you talk to anyone else. So the real question is, what kind of conversation is happening inside your mind? The strongest people aren't those who never doubt, they are the ones who don't live in doubt. They replace destructive thoughts with truthful ones. They question fear instead of obeying it. They don't silence emotions, but they don't surrender to them either. This is the first habit of mental strength. Master your inner voice, or it will master you. Our thoughts are often automatic. They appear without permission. But with awareness, we can interrupt them and reframe them. Mentally strong people use 3 mental tools. Observation, notice the thought instead of becoming the thought. Questioning, ask, is this true? Do I have evidence? Reframing, replace fear with progress. What can I learn from this? This creates what psychologists call cognitive flexibility, the ability to bend without breaking. You cannot always choose your thoughts. But you can choose your response to them. Someone prepares for an important job interview. They study hard. They plan. But just before entering the room, their mind whispers, "You're going to fail. They'll see you're not good enough. You don't belong here." At that moment, the interview isn't the real battle, the inner voice is. Now imagine if the person could pause, breathe, and ask a simple question. Is that voice protecting me or limiting me? That single moment of awareness can change performance, confidence, even life direction. The strongest conversations are often the ones we have with ourselves. A Native American story tells of a grandfather speaking to his grandson about life. There are 2 wolves inside us. One is fear, anger, jealousy, and doubt. The other is courage, hope, kindness, and strength. They fight every day. The boy asked, "Which one wins?" The grandfather replied, "The one you feed." What voice do I feed more, fear or courage? Do I challenge negative thoughts or accept them as truth? What if my inner voice became my coach instead of my critic? The strongest people don't ignore their emotions, they manage them. They may feel fear, but they speak to themselves with truth. They may doubt, but they still step forward. They may fall, but they refuse to stay down. Mental strength begins with mental honesty. In the next chapter, we'll explore habit 2, a habit that protects energy, reduces anxiety, and builds long-term self-respect. Mentally strong people understand one simple truth. Energy is limited and attention is expensive. What you give your time to shapes your direction. What you give your attention to shapes your emotions. You don't need to control everything, but you must learn to protect your energy. Because without energy, even wisdom becomes difficult to follow. Mentally strong people don't just ask, "What should I do?" They also ask, "What should I stop doing?" They build boundaries, not to push people away, but to stay rooted in balance. They say no without guilt. They avoid drama. And they stop chasing every opinion. Mental strength doesn't mean isolation, it means selective access. Mentally strong people protect their energy in 3 ways. They don't engage in pointless battles. They don't explain themselves to everyone. They make choices based on values, not pressure. Imagine being in a group chat full of arguments. Every topic becomes a debate. Every message feels like pressure to respond. Hours are spent defending opinions instead of building life. One day, you leave the chat. Not because you're angry. Not because you're weak. But because you understand something important. Not every battle deserves your presence. That single decision brings more peace than any argument ever could. A teacher filled a bowl with clean water. Then he dropped a dry sponge into it. The sponge absorbed everything until there was nothing left in the bowl. He said, "This is the mind without boundaries." It absorbs everything, problems, noise, opinions, until nothing is left for clarity. Then he placed a stone in the bowl. The stone stayed firm. Still. Unmoved. He said, "This is the mind with boundaries. Still open to the world, but rooted in who it is. Where is my energy secretly leaking? What noise have I accepted as normal? Which battles am I fighting that don't even matter?" Protecting your energy isn't selfish. It's essential. Mentally strong people don't waste time on chaos because they need energy for purpose. They don't explain themselves to everyone because they know their direction. They step back when needed, not to give up, but to go forward with clarity. In the next chapter, we'll explore habit 3, a habit that allows mentally strong people to grow, adapt, and thrive during challenges. So far, we've explored 3 powerful habits of mentally strong people. But there's one more step. Strength only matters when it becomes a way of life. Not just something practiced when times are hard, but something carried within you every day. This chapter is about turning those habits into your identity. Not "I try to be strong, but I am strong." Let's dive deeper, gently, because true strength never shouts. It stands still when the world is shaking. A quiet reminder. Before we begin, pause and ask yourself, what kind of person do I want to be when life feels heavy? Not what you wish, but what you choose. Mentally strong people don't wait for the right mood. They don't hope for motivation. They act with intention even when it's difficult. That's how strength becomes character. Turning habits into identity. Here's how mentally strong people make their habits part of who they are. 1. They don't depend on motivation, they build discipline. There will be days when you don't feel like doing the work. Days when motivation is nowhere to be found. Mentally strong people know that feelings aren't reliable. So instead of waiting for inspiration, they build systems. A writer wakes up and writes. A runner puts on their shoes. A student opens the book. Not because they feel like it, but because it's who they are now. Strength begins when action no longer depends on emotion. Reflect. What is one thing you need to do, even when you don't want to do it? 2. They don't seek perfection, they seek growth. Perfection traps people. It keeps them afraid of trying, afraid of failing. Mentally strong people understand that failure is simply feedback. A guide. A teacher. There's a Japanese saying, fall 7 times, stand up 8. Not try to stand up. Stand up. They remove shame from failure. They remove ego from progress. They ask one simple question. What did this teach me? That question alone can change who you become. 3. They don't live on autopilot, they live with awareness. Mentally strong people notice their thoughts. They question their assumptions. They understand that not every belief deserves power. When stress hits, most people react immediately. But mentally strong people pause, even for 2 seconds, and ask, is this thought helping me or hurting me? That tiny pause can reshape the entire direction of your life. Because the mind doesn't need to be controlled, only understood. A short story. A monk once asked his master, how do I gain strength? The master replied, do one thing every day that your mind tries to avoid. The monk began small. Cold showers. Extra reading. Long walks in silence. Over time, the voice of resistance grew quieter. Eventually, it disappeared. That was the day he understood. Strength is not in the body. Strength is not in the voice. Strength is in the choice. The final question. As this video ends, ask yourself gently, what is one choice you can make today that your future self will be proud of? Not a big decision. Just one small action. Taken with courage. That's how habits turn into identity. And how identity turns into strength. Real mental strength is not loud. It doesn't need attention. It simply walks forward, even when no one is watching. If you're still walking, you're already stronger than you think.